Okay, today we're going to be discussing period five, what happened and why. Forgive my stuttering. It's probably I have this issue called a lisp. Yeah, I think you probably tell the way I talk, but okay, let's get into it. So, period five. The beginning of this period was called the expansionist era for one reason and one reason only: manifest destiny. Remember when I told you manifest destiny was going to play a big role? Yeah, it is now. This is a concept that it was the divinely ordained right of the U.S. to basically colonize or spread to the borders of the Pacific Ocean and above, and spread their goodwill. I mean, good luck or whatever you would call it, to spread the idea of democracy across the world, and because they felt it was a huge game changer for them, and they wanted to spread it. I guess. Yeah. So one of the defining features of this period was the territorial expansion, which I already told you about, of the United States. The concept of manifest destiny drove American settlers to acquire new territories and led to an annexation of Texas, the Oregon Territory, and the Mexican Cession. The expansion, however, increased sectional tensions over the issue of slavery. There was a growing debate over the issue of slavers and what's the newly admitted states, what side of the debate the newly admitted states belong to. There was a balance prior to manifest destiny when it comes to the ratio of slave states and slave-free states. A very common, one of the conflicts right now in the this period is the issue of slavery, because at this point there was these people were starting to, you know, advocate for anti-slavery, because before, prior to this period, every single American was pro-slavery. They basically all owned slaves and felt the need to I mean, you know, not give a f word about what the slaves thought of their. They basically saw it as a favor prior to this moment, but now people are starting to change their mind, which led to like slave states and non-slave states, because also okay, moving on, the abolitionist movement gained momentum during this period, which with figures such as Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, and William Lloyd Garrison advocating for the immediate end of slavery. The publication of Harriet Beecher's Stowe novel Uncle Tom's Cabin further fueled anti-slavery sentiment in the North and heightened tension between the North and the South. At this point in time, the North and South reached an all-time high, with supporters calling for the end of slavery. So I guess this the conflict at the heart of the American interest at this point is slavery, like I said before. Political developments played a crucial role in shaping the events of period five. The rise of new political parties, such as the Free Soil Party and the Republican Party, which you'll learn about and what their ideologies and their the main points or main goals were, reflected a growing opposition to the expansion of slavery into Western territories. The Republican Party's formation in 1854, I believe, represented a significant realignment of political power, uniting various slavery factions. So, one of the defining features of period five was intensifying sectional conflict over the issue of slavery, like I said before. The institution of slavery has become deeply rooted in the southern states, while the northern states increasingly embrace an anti-slavery stance. The Compromise of 1850 attempted to address these tensions by allowing for the admission of California as a free state. The implementation of a more stringent a more of the Fugitive Slave Act and the organization of popular sovereignty in the territory. So basically, there was this. I forgot what the thing was called, but they basically passed a law which says popular sovereignty basically determined if it was a slave state or a slave-free state, or and stuff like that. Um, Sorry. However, the passage of the Kansas-Nebraska Act in 1854, which repealed the Missouri Compromise of 1820, which are very important events which you should know because it's very important. It's very crucial to your overall understanding of this overall period to understand these events I'm just name dropping. I'm there's no time to explain every single one because to get into that will be take forever. But you should definitely pay attention when going over this in class. So, the Missouri Compromise, which the passage of the Nebraska Act in 1854, which repealed the Missouri Compromise of 1820 and allowed for popular sovereignty in the territories, further increased sectional tensions and led to violent clashes between pro-slavery and anti-slavery forces in the Kansas territory known as Bleeding Kansas. The issue of slavery has reached its breaking point with the election of Abraham Lincoln as president. Southern states, fearing the erosion of their acts of potential curtailment or putting an end to slavery, seceded from the Union, ensuing what was known as Civil War. It was a bloody and transformative conflict that tested the nation's commitment to its founding ideals. The war resulted in immense casualties and destruction and fundamentally reshaped the relationship between the federal government and the states, solidifying the supremacy of the federal government over the states and ending the institution of slavery through the Emancipation Proclamation and passage of the 13th Amendment. This executive order completely transformed the Civil War from a mere disagreement on who's to lead the country as a whole and differences of ideologies into a struggle for both preserving the Union and abolishing slavery. A lot of factors that played a factor. A lot of events that played a factor into why the end result is you learn about in class. But the war resulted in defeat, obviously, of the Confederacy and preservation of the United States as a single nation. The aftermath of the Civil War gave rise to the period of Reconstruction, a very complex process aimed at rebuilding the nation after after losses on both sides and integrating formerly enslaved African Americans into society. Reconstruction witnessed significant political, social, and economic changes. The passage of the Reconstruction Amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, which you should know or pay attention to when going over in class, abolished slavery, granted citizenship and equal protection under the law to African Americans, and extended voting rights to African American men. The Freedmen Bureau was established to provide assistance to newly freed slaves in education and employment and land ownership. However, Reconstruction faced fierce resistance from white Southerners because to take away slavery is to take away their main source of income, who sought to maintain white supremacy through the implementation of black codes, segregation, and voter suppression tactics, such as poll taxes and literary tests. The end of Reconstruction in 1877 marked a turning point in the United States. The Compromise of 1877, a political agreement reached between Republicans and Democrats, led to the withdrawal of federal troops from the South, effectively ending the era of Reconstruction and allowing for the establishment of Jim Crow laws and a segregation system known as the New South. The abandonment of Reconstruction left African Americans vulnerable to systemic racism and discrimination, leading to a prolonged period of inequality and limited civil rights that persisted for generations. So, as I said earlier, the main conflict in this time period was was slavery in itself, and why it was a conflict was because America was divided on whether to support or abolish slavery. Because one side was pro-slavery and the other side was anti-slavery, but because the pro-slavery side had a higher voice, population, whatever you want to say, it made it seem as if they were bullying the other. It made it seem as if they were bullying the lesser population of white Southerners who advocated for, they were pro-slavery, basically. Thank you.